ask anybody's question but yours. You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
Welcome, everyone, to the Disloyal Idiots Podcast here on the Fantasy Sports Network. Christian Guzman here with Steve Heller and Andy Pregler. I would just like to let everyone know currently the time on Sunday, October 10th is 8:01. Georgetown still sucks, and that will be all the basketball talk we will get to this podcast once again. Because I would like to remind my co-hosts on this wonderful Disloyal Idiots podcast that the Fran Brown introductory press conference for Syracuse football was 6 days ago.
And 4 months at the same time. Because holy hell, this has been a week.
Wait, that can't be right. We definitely talked about. Oh my gosh. Okay,
well,
I need to go.
Bottoms up, folks.
Yeah, this is gonna be a great show to just join on the Twitch broadcast. Reminder: Twitch, Disloyal Idiots. Not only because you're just going to see my brain and facial reactions to all these things that I still can't believe are happening.
It'll be great because I know you're not quite as on the pulse as what Christian and I have been hitting lately. So I'm sure there's a couple of tidbits that we're going to feed Pregler that his brain will explode. Yeah.
And it's going to be, you're also going to miss the screen share of Steve's amazing, wonderful sheet that has become the lifeblood of Dune's Magician this week, which is not something that I thought we'd be saying about a spreadsheet that Steve created. No disrespect
what would Priscilla be saying
but...
right now if this was the timeline that was happening during his reign?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I have a group chat with a lot of Syracuse friends, and I think the biggest thing that they have continually said is that a week of Fran Brown has generated more excitement than the last 5 years of Dino Babers after that 10-win season. And I think that is all we really need to say about it, but is also kind of encapsulating like how crazy this week has been.
Definition of damning by faint praise.
Yes.
I wasn't around for the beginning, obviously, of the Schaefer and Maroon eras, but that's around the time when the online sports world and social media world was starting to kick into high gear. But even when Dino was first started getting, into Syracuse, I don't even remember this much hype just around the Syracuse sports media sphere around Dino's hire either, in the moves that he was making. And even when Syracuse was still going on that 10-win season in 2018, there still wasn't the same amount of promise that feels like that the Syracuse fan base right now has with Brown at the helm. It feels like for the first time in quite some time, there's a lot more optimism about the future, the direction the program is heading with Brown under center right now than the past 3 head coaches combined, especially in the social media world.
4.
Yeah, don't forget Gerg.
Do you count that?
Yes, actually, because weirdly there was a lot of hype around that hiring because people, we've always talked about the revisionist history of Syracuse football and how people remember Pasqualoni era as sunshine and rainbows and everything was great. It was good. I would pine for those days again. However, there's a reason we fired Paul Pasqualoni, and it was because towards the end of his tenure, he couldn't get out of his own way at 6-6 and was taking a good bit of talent and not capitalizing on the talent and not, moving the program forward. So it made sense that we made the move that we did at the time we did. And when that happened, we brought in a guy who had NFL pedigree from, USC and, had a philosophy, said the right things at the press conference, did the whole 9. And then it turned into Greg Robinson. And, may he rest in peace, but there were problems in his tenure. I think most people can remember those. But going into it, he looked like a perfectly fine hire on paper, and it was the right move at the time to move away from P. And weirdly, you transpose that with this, and it was the right time to move on from Dino. This doesn't seem like a paper hire. Everything we've heard and seen in this past week is not the same feeling as, okay, this guy has some rah-rah, and that's, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. Everything seems genuine. Everything seems like he's making every single right move. It's almost uncanny how many right moves he's been making in the last week. And every time I see like a new news post, I'm like, oh, this feels better than the last time I heard something about Fran Brown.
Yeah, I think that this is actually a really great way to kind of frame the rest of this show, because one of the things that I was really concerned about if the Orange didn't go out and get a program building football coach, somebody who had done it at a smaller level, worked with lesser resources, and had built up a winning tradition, was that we were going to be repeating the Greg Robinson thing, where Dino was clearly getting us to a very mediocre level, which is hard to sustain at Syracuse. But we cut bait too early. We go after a flashy hire, and then all things break loose because Syracuse is an incredibly difficult job. So I think going into the Fran Brown press conference, one of the things that I wanted to see from him, not necessarily like proof of concept, because you're not going to get that in a press conference, but I wanted to see him not necessarily win the press conference, but I wanted to get an idea of what John Wildhack saw in him that made him pick over Signetti, over Candle, over other guys that were rumored for this job that have then moved on to other Power 5 or other jobs in the cycle. And I think that this is we can go around the horn on this one, but for me, like, I can understand how being in a room with Fran Brown for like an hour would make you want to be on that guy's side of a fight. Like, I don't care what side he's on. Like, I want to be on his side of it, because he just seems to have that no nonsense, but also not an idiot approach to everything. Like, everything is really logical. Everything is really direct. Everything follows really easily. And he just is so earnest about it all that I can understand why that's very appealing for a job like this.
One of the things that I think, Andy, I don't know if you've ever heard this said at Newhouse when we were both there. One of the things that one of my professors told me is that at least when you're watching broadcasters and studying broadcasters, you want them to pass the beer test, which is, do you want to go grab a beer with that person? And if so, they're probably a person you want to listen to. Steve has an alcoholic drink with him. That indicates he likes listening to us. So we've passed his beer test.
Years ago.
Which is good. But this also applies now to coaches, because I think towards the end of Dino's tenure, there were definitely personal elements of Dino very early on. It was very charming with the metaphors and the movie references. But towards the end of his coaching tenure, we all saw it and heard it. It devolved a lot into generalized coach speak, and a lot of secrecy and hidden messages that, as a lot of people have already pointed out, just didn't translate well to the fans and the media, especially towards the end of his tenure. And kind of like what Andy said, Brown is a more direct guy, but he's a no-nonsense guy, and he's going to be real with you. There's right now, there didn't seem like there was any fluff in terms of coach speak from Brown. Maybe a little, but not nearly as much as we saw from Dino. And Brown is definitely one of those guys that passes the beer test. He is a guy that I think a lot of people would be interested to head on down to Beer Garden and to have a glass with him. And I think already, in terms of getting involved with the community, we saw him during the weekend of official visits take some time to go to Van Dyke Elementary to help out on a coat drive there.
Yeah,
like this. This is a guy who wants to make a difference in the community and be a guy who is who wants to attract fans and attract people to come to Syracuse. which is something that has been said by a lot of previous head coaches they want to do, but the action necessarily hasn't been there. And now we're seeing the head guy of the program already doing this on the first week of him being on the job.
Right. And it doesn't seem like it's I'm doing this for the kissing babies PR thing. It seems very genuine. And it's awesome to see that. It's just I don't even know how to put to words how great it is to see someone who consciously seems like they want to invest in the community and bring not only Syracuse football but Syracuse back. I don't even know to where, but anywhere.
Well, we know where he wants
the city.
We know where he wants to eventually bring it back to.
Absolutely.
The Pascalone and De Leon eras. He very clearly said, "Hey, that's the core memory that's stuck in his brain."
Right, because he coached with George for 2-3 years, I think, between Baylor and Temple. So yeah, I mean, he understands Syracuse from that era. He understands what P and De Leon put into this program and what's happened since, and he understands the Northeast. And while the Northeast may not be chock full of talent, he seems to be able to mine what we have. And if we can use him to control New Jersey, use his connections to control it, that's your major talent pipeline. So it's a combination.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that's been, he won the press conference. He seemed to win everybody over there. He coach speaked enough around like what type of offense he wants to run, what type of defense he wants to run. A lot of the like more schematic-y questions, he was very good about being pretty honest that like, look, we're just not there yet. Like there's a vision for that, but we're not there yet. So one of the things that's become very clear over this week, and before we get into the recruiting element of it, let's talk about the coaching staff, because Fran Brown won me over by breaking news during his press conference.
That was incredible.
Yeah,
just like, you know what? Here it is.
Yeah. I'm hiring Elijah Robinson. We're paying him a lot of money. The contract wasn't announced until what? Like 2 days ago was when it was officially announced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Robinson had already been out like consciously recruiting for Syracuse before it was even announced. So yeah, like there's pictures of him and
well, I'm pretty sure
on visits.
I'm pretty sure that he's the only other coach that's been quote unquote officially announced by Syracuse Athletics.
I think that might be true.
Everyone else that has been quote unquote announced is already working, still working, just hasn't been officially revealed and announced by Syracuse Athletics.
Maybe SU Athletics acknowledged that Nunzio was staying on, but beyond that, nothing.
Yeah. So I think that part of that might just be the bowl game. Like I bet you see a lot of announcements after the Boca Raton Bowl, which again is a thing that is happening, which seems crazy among all this thing. Like, oh, by the way, in a week and a half we play a bowl game. LOL.
Our second bowl game in a row.
Yeah, crazy. So let's talk about Elijah Robinson really quick. Defensive coordinator coming in. It seems that the accolades on him are well known in recruiting circles. There's a lot more voices being quoted talking about his football acumen. It really seems like Fran is hiring one of his guys, but he said during his press conference something that really stuck out with me, where he obviously did the line of like, I'm not leaving here. Like I want to have this job for 10 years and then my daughter's going to be grown up more and I'll go and play with her or whatever. I don't choose to believe or disbelieve any of that. That's not here.
I will 100% believe that and buy into it until the point that I don't, because
exactly.
If somebody comes calling, like you can't fault the guy. If somebody came calling and he, took the jump to BC or Rutgers or something like that, it's like, okay, yeah, blame him for that. But if Kirby Smart retires and Georgia is like, hey, Fran, come on,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
you're taking that gig. I don't care what you said in your introductory press conference.
right. He didn't use dream job, so that's always a win.
Right.
But what he did say was that
Fran Brown's currently taking the Leeds job right now, but if Chelsea comes calling, you
Right.
know,
I don't know about now.
I mean, might be Man U at this point. Anyways,
yeah, about that. Hmm.
yeah. So he did say that he wants this job to be a place where, one, any assistant that's coming in is going to wear many hats. This is going to be a job where if you're coming in as an assistant coach in any capacity, you better be willing to do a lot of work, which I've never heard a Syracuse head coach call that out so publicly before.
Yeah.
But we've all known it. We all see the staffs. We all see how this is put together. We understand that. But the second part was that he said that he wants this to be a place where a guy comes in, they're here for 2 or 3 years, and then they get a head coaching job somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
Which,
he called out Elijah specifically and was like, in 3 years he's gone. But for
Yeah.
those 3 years, he's my guy.
And I think that is a really refreshing mindset to hear that said so blatantly and to set expectations. But I also think that, Steve, to your point, Robinson seems to be a guy on the rise. Seems to be somebody that has been overlooked for jobs in the past. He's now had his second interim head coaching gig. Both times have been successful. He's had winning records. I think that we're sitting on a situation where, and we're going to talk about these other coaches that Fran's hiring, or rumored to hire. It seems like Fran, like I don't mean to say it so crassly like this, but Fran's got a Rolodex of a lot of black coaches that have been overlooked or have had to go through weird paths. And he seems to be putting a bright neon sign over Syracuse that says, come work for me, elevate your profile. When you do good here, you get to go to the NFL. Like, come here, do this job well, and then move on to the next big thing. And I'm kind of love him for this. And I also kind of am intrigued to see Syracuse become what Fulham used to be for Americans in Europe, or what Dortmund used to be for Americans in Europe, where it's like, look, we understand that your general situation is kind of shitty where it is. Come here, save space, get better, get the hell out of here, and make us richer in the process.
Oh my God, we are Dortmund. We actually are Dortmund. We're Dortmund. Come get better at Dortmund so that you can make your big money move to Real Madrid. Go.
Yeah, and then Syracuse gets the fee for the, the finder's fee, gets the payout.
Yeah.
So who's our Birmingham City that we're getting Jude Bellingham from?
Right now it seems like Texas A&M, but
that is very true.
But yeah, any other thoughts on Elijah Robinson before we start running down the names that have been leaked to be associated with Syracuse so far?
I don't think we can have a conversation about Elijah Robinson without mentioning those names that have been leaked to be associated with Syracuse so far. Which means it's time for our favorite part of the night.
And let's put it out there. The next name that has been leaked, or the first name past Robinson that's been leaked, is literally in Instagram stories of recruits on campus, like working with them in the official visits.
Yes.
So,
wearing Syracuse gear.
Oh yeah. In the dome, high-fiving people and jumping around and being all sorts of crazy, which was amazing to see.
Having dinosaur barbecue with said recruits.
Yes. And then sitting on a Ferrari while eating hibachi?
First of all, where did Syracuse get the money for a Ferrari? Even to rent it out for a day.
Where did Syracuse get the money to bring in a full-blown hibachi setup?
You would be surprised. You would be surprised who in Syracuse has these things.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Billy Fusillo is not around anymore to tell us where to get his Ferraris.
It was not a huge Ferrari, but for anyone who didn't see anything on social media this weekend, what we're referring to is Nick Williams, who is the defensive ends kind of edge coach, formerly of Coach Prime's staff in Buffalo. Yeah, in Colorado. Who is apparently coming to hang out with. He's got a history with Robinson, and just gonna be our defensive ends coach. Young, talented guy who seems to really hit it off with some of these recruits, judging by reactions on socials.
May or may not have been may or may not been 25th ranked in terms of the recruiting rankings from 24/7.
Right. So right now we're at what, 110 and 25?
Yeah.
That's okay. I won't complain about that.
It does seem like there was a lot of thought when Dino's staff was going under some changes that, oh man, it's hard, what do you got to do? And it turns out that you just got to have some friends in this business. You got to be young, you got to be connected to all these other coaches that are grinding it out, and when one of you makes it big, y'all get to go hang out with that guy. Like, I love that Fran Brown is doing the thing that everybody did drunk around a bar table at some point in time in college, which was, if I make it big, I'm bringing you all with me.
Yep. Telling all your buddies, you're like, come on, let's go.
I mean, Fran Brown is doing what I do when I started to do Football Manager Save. They immediately fire the entire support staff and then just hire former players that I know that are from real life names and just have them on my staff.
There you go. Absolutely.
It is just absolutely wild. And on the final name that it's on the defensive end, or on the defensive side of the ball, that's been leaked so far, Pete Thamel reported on December 9th, which was yesterday, that Robert Wright is coming over from Buffalo as the linebackers coach. He is he wasn't the defensive play caller, but he's coming over as linebacker coach. Again, it's not going to surprise you. Another young black up and coming coach in the ranks, joining the defensive side of the ball, which I think is, again, probably decent recruiter. Interesting that he's getting somebody from the MAC, first like MAC hire that we've seen so far. So definitely interesting. I was going to say, I was looking in the Slack. So there we go. Kevin posted something in the Slack channel from the directory that was like, Wright came from Duke, where he was a defensive analyst, then went to Buffalo in a more coaching role, coming to Syracuse in a more coaching role, probably cheaper than a lot of the other staff names that we're about to talk about that are coming in on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. There's some options there too. The hard rumor right now is that Jeff Nixon, who is currently the running backs coach for the New York Football Giants, I don't know if you may have heard of them. They play on Sundays.
They have a former Orange player as their quarterback.
That's true. Doing amazing Italian food reviews on socials.
Oh man.
Yeah. What is this world twisted when we end up seeing Tommy DeVito as the starting quarterback for the New York Giants?
Life's weird.
Yep.
Love it.
But Jeff Nixon, currently the running backs coach, is the hard rumor currently for the OC position. He is a Penn State grad, was a grad assistant there, bounced around to a bunch of different places, ended up in and out of the NFL, worked with the aforementioned Coach Brown at Baylor 2017 through 2019, so somewhere in that overlap, and then went back to the NFL, and apparently is going to come back and hang out with us.
Yeah, Matt Rule guy, lost in this whole thing is that he was one of the co-OCs and play caller on those Baylor teams. So for those kind of wondering, like, I think one of the questions that I had with this hire was like, you're hiring a running backs coach to be OC at the college level. Like, that's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Oh, wait, he's already done this before with an offense that puts up a lot of points. Okay, so we're not really, again, it seems like another guy who had taken a weird path, because pathways are not always linear for black coaches in modern football. And Fran is basically giving him the opportunity to say, like, look, be OC at Syracuse, and if you're good, you're going to get an OC job at a bigger school, or you're going to get a head coaching job somewhere. So again, another great hire. I think it works really well. Also kind of fits with the other rumored hire from Pete Thamel. Thamel broke that Syracuse is set to hire New England Patriots assistant Ross Douglas as a wide receivers coach. He's been in New England for a few years. I think that it's another interesting that he's going to the NFL. But if you then start breaking down his background, you start to see a lot of the Fran Brown overlap. Specifically, he was at Rutgers from 2018 to 2020. So yet another New Jersey adjacent person. He's from Ohio originally, and also went to the University of Michigan, but has his master's degree from Rutgers, went to coached at Rutgers. So more New Jersey connections coming through the pipeline.
I just hate that Christian's living his best life with all these Jersey connections.
I have converted you all.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I was gonna say one of the things that I think is perfect is that we're about at halftime, and all these coaches and New Jersey connections are about to play a very important role, have been playing a very important role in what's been going on right now. But first, we are going to talk about Home Field Apparel, your one-stop shop for the comfiest, the coziest, the best t-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, joggers, bomber jackets, you name it, they have it, and they're going to have it in ridiculously awesome vintage gear and designs. Highly recommend you all go check them out, especially if you want to get that holiday shopping in. If you've been waiting until the last minute, order this week to guarantee your Christmas time delivery. If you have not ordered from Home Field before, use promo code NUNES, NUNES23, to get 10% off your first order at Home Field Apparel. And make sure you continue to check up at homefieldapparel.com and follow the good brand on the socials as they are doing their 12 days of Christmas promotions, different deals dropping every single day. You can grab lots of Christmas gifts for yourself, as well as those friends and family that you're buying holiday stuff for. Syracuse, on the other hand, is getting some gifts a little bit early thanks to Fran Brown. I think the easiest way to say this is that Fran went out, got all of his New Jersey boys together, and said, all right, let's flip. Let's get some flips. And it has been an absolutely wild week. Steve, will you do the honors?
Tune into the live stream now.
which one is it? That one. I have too many Syracuse spreadsheets. Sorry.
A
Sorry,
line I did not think you would ever say.
Yeah. So I figured I'd start from the bottom because these are the worst players we're targeting, which is mildly insane. Apparently, Caden Bennett's a 26. That it takes time there. Ethan Robinson is a transfer from Bucknell. Mekhi Muse is a transfer from Georgia. Neither of them had anything on the major services. They're probably somewhere up in the mix. But the decommits are here. This is a major of note. I have put as many targets as I can find on this spreadsheet. Currently, we're at 48 targets, possible targets that we've confirmed on socials or whatever. The 3 decommits that are on the spreadsheet are here on the bottom page. As we move up, there's
let's look at that name that scrolled back at the quarterback also.
What's that? Oh yeah, we'll get back there. So I did highlight in orange the one person who has officially committed to the Syracuse Orange after this official visit weekend. Breaking news: Jalen Hornsby, the former A&M commit, is now in orange. So
and immediately becomes Syracuse's second highest recruit.
Right, because cycle. The other prior highest recruit this cycle was Jamie Trumbull, a tight end, 4-star, and you can see immediately Hornsby slots in right below him. Recently downgraded to a 3 because reasons. So yeah, a lot of guys you can see on campus this weekend. We can get back to that later as well, but
including that one guy at the top as well.
Yeah, I don't know if do we want to where do we want to start with this mess, because this ranges from Walter Nolan, who was a defensive line transfer from Texas A&M that was a .9997 grade coming out of high school. And KJ Bolden, who was on campus this weekend as a .9953. And again, these are not commits. These are just people we're interested in. Unless it says commit, they're not committed. But yeah, that's where our ceiling is starting now, as opposed to where we were before. So
the fact that Syracuse is even in the conversation with people who have high 90 grades in the rankings,
let alone an entire page of them.
Indeed, the first, what is it, 15 lines are all 90 or at minimum.
Do you want me to keep scrolling down because there's more?
Yeah.
There's so many 4 stars. I've never seen this.
Let's all recall that the lowest 90 rated ranking is the highest recruit that we ever thought we were going to get in the Baber cycle.
Yes.
Oh
So
gosh.
look at all that up there. So,
Andy is currently having a crisis.
Yeah, no, I'm so again.
You broke it. Great.
We're now one of those times where Andy is legitimately speechless.
I think the craziest. Okay, so let's start with some of the names that you might have heard. So obviously Walter Knowlton, the Texas A&M transfer, basically linked to Syracuse because he and Robinson are, according to one source, quoted them as saying like he is like a son to him. So they are projecting that he's going to Syracuse. I might as well.
Same thing with LT Overton, and his brother is farther down the list as well. But same kind of reasoning. Robinson was their position coach. Great relationship. Current odds-on favorite. It's not like crystal ball or anything, but odds-on favorite is that they're going to get Syracuse interest.
And it's not like Texas A&M transfers have done well in a Syracuse before.
No, never.
I mean, but that guy was the son-in-law. I guess, yeah, we're talking about metaphorical sons now, so it's all basically the same thing.
What about the other guy that was on the other opposite side of the ball? Wasn't Alton Robinson an A&M transfer?
Was he?
Oh, man, he was a Texas transfer of some kind, but I thought...
Somewhere down there.
Let me see. Hold on, I'm looking this up. He was a JUCO transfer.
Okay.
Yes, he was a JUCO transfer. He's from Texas. He was committed to Texas A&M, but he flipped.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yes,
Okay.
He was a flip. But again, not like that's ever worked out badly for us in the past, especially on the defensive line side of the ball.
I don't care about the defensive line side of the ball. I care about this guy.
Yeah, Chase Bizontis is how you say that one, I believe.
Sure.
Yeah,
we'll learn it real quick. I'll put it up on the board. I don't care.
Steve, can we also just, before we get to Steve's thing as well? Yeah, that line that you're hovering over right now, Steve. The fact that we're even in the conversation for Kyle McCord is wild.
Yeah, he did have
a guy who started for Ohio State this year.
Right. Yep. Had a Syracuse offer coming out of high school, and I can't remember where I got it from. Everything on here at least has had some relatively reliable tie to us being linked to them. So may not. There's varying levels of certainty, but the name's been in the conversation, which is more than we can say about Syracuse for recruits of this caliber in any way, shape, or form for the last 20 years.
Kyle McCord does make a bit of sense though if he's looking to transfer, not just because Syracuse once recruited him, but like, look, I don't know what kind of offense Fran Brown wants to run, but it sounds like we might be going to something a little bit more akin to the rest of college football and less smoke and mirrors. And I feel like Kyle McCord is exactly the type of transfer quarterback that you want in that spot. But anyways, not saying that we're going to even get him, but the fact that we are tied to Kyle McCord in a serious manner is absolutely wild. I think that I don't know if we saw it, but there was another one that was, do you have Jabri Coleman on the list? Yep, there he is. Running back who was a Georgia commit is now reopening his commitment, and is from Pennsylvania. So obviously, like, that is right into the recruiting range of what we're kind of talking about here with Fran Brown. There's, I was gonna say, Yazid Haynes. Did we get him added to the group in there? Yep, there he is, right there.
He was a Georgia transfer. That same deal. Coy Beasley was committed is committed to Purdue currently. Was on campus this weekend.
And I feel like we just kind of glossed over who's second on this list, because he actually was one of the guys who officially visited Syracuse, KJ Bolden.
True.
Yeah, KJ Bolden,
99.5 grade safety, 5-star. A 5-star actually visited Syracuse, and it wasn't for basketball.
Right. And this, he came along with his good buddy, King Joseph Edwards.
The hero of social media this weekend.
Social media presence. 90 plus rated edge that is a very strong lean from what we can gather. I believe it got crystal balled last I saw.
Yeah.
So
based on all the comments that he had on Syracuse this weekend, it seems like you would lean that way.
Yep. So I guess Bolden is good buddies with him. They were both on campus, both flew up from Georgia. So yeah, that would you know what? I would take a package deal on that.
I just want to read you guys his recruiting timeline. So obviously this is like when the hard sell goes on. And so right now, KJ Bolden basically up until this point has been recruited by 3 schools very intensely: Auburn, Florida State, and Georgia. He's committed to Georgia. So, here we go.
To Florida State, he's leaning Georgia last the most I had heard.
There we go. So yes, on August 5th, he commits to Florida State. He does an unofficial visit in September and October and November, unofficially visiting Florida State. In December, he unofficially visits the Auburn Tigers on the 4th. On the 6th, he gets a follow-up visit from Hugh Freeze. On the 7th, Kirby Smart goes, we haven't really done anything with him since then. We should probably meet up with this guy on the 7th. On the 8th, he goes to Syracuse for the recruiting weekend. And this weekend, he will be on his official visit at Florida State. So again, it is just absolutely wild to me that you go from a list of like Hugh Freeze, Kirby Smart, Florida State, where he's actually committed to go to. Oh, by the way, he also just took a quick trip up north to go see Syracuse. That's the kind of stuff that is like they purposely put in a mystery novel as like a little clue of like, you should probably pay attention to that, even though you want to overlook this.
Is Hugh Freeze having Vietnam flashbacks to Syracuse right now?
Yeah, look, Hugh Freeze is laying in a hospital bed in the booth right now.
Hugh Freeze gives him a thumbs up from the press box as he's hanging out with Fran on the Ferrari.
Oh god.
I think that the toughest part about this list is like let's be really honest here. It sounds like Nolan is going to be coming to Syracuse via transfer. It sounds like the Jabri Coleman is going to be definitely in the mix. It sounds like Fadil Diggs, we're going to be in the deep mix for him. Steve, if you keep scrolling down, I just want to make sure that we're like right here. It sounds like Yazid Haynes is already being rumored to come to Syracuse via transfer.
Oh, here, let me pull the 25s and 26s out of there. Just so we.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it didn't really pull much out. Okay, cool.
Yeah, neat. It sounds like King Joseph Edwards is going to be a Syracuse commit. It sounds like Tremble really likes the direction that things are going with Fran Brown. If you, Marcellus Barnes, another Brown.
I believe Philistin. Sorry, we'll learn how to pronounce it at a later date. Maybe a flip too. Flop. No, hopefully not.
Flop.
We prefer a flip to a flop.
Definitely.
We're gonna have to
So-
get Fran Brown an HGTV series very, very soon.
That is a Photoshop that Kevin needs to make at some point. So either way, we just listed off about 6 names that we think are very strongly coming to Syracuse on the back of Fran Brown just this week. That would be like if everything else ends up being a no, like they go to their other school that they've already been committed to, they go somewhere else. That this week alone would be a win for just the 5 or 6 names that he's getting. The fact that we're talking about so many other names that are over 90 grades, that are 4 stars. Like, I think this is the part where Steve reminds us, correct me if I'm wrong, but if this cycle, if that breaks the way that we talked about it, Fran Brown is going to have brought in like the top 7 recruits in Syracuse modern history in just this cycle, in just this week.
I can't remember what article I made that comment on because I actually looked this up. Let's see.
Oh man, boy, what kind of world are we living in right now?
And Christian, I think the part that we've like obviously been kind of glossing over in all this stuff, when you start looking at where all of these kids are from, there's obviously, in the case of Bolden, like he was somebody that Fran Brown knew from Georgia recruiting. But when you talk about Chase Besantis, Don Bosco Prep, when you talk about King Joseph Edwards, when you start talking about a lot of these names, you're talking about the prep schools in northern New Jersey, talking about the big public schools in central and south Jersey. Like, Fran did not lie when he said that Jersey was going to be a priority when he hit campus.
I mean, just look at the coaching staff as well that he assembled. I mean, all those guys have pretty strong Jersey ties as well. And
I made the joke when they announced Ross that when they announced Douglas that he wasn't from Jersey, so we couldn't allow it. It's like there has to be a connection to Jersey. There's no other way.
It's a incredible sign to see that, you know, this is right now Jersey is one of the best hotbeds for Northeast talent. And if Syracuse wants to dominate the Northeast region, especially since, if John Wildhack wasn't going to get a current, Group 5 head coach or a Power 5 coordinator, which is what he originally wanted in his collegiate search, and the next best thing was to get someone with strong Northeast ties. Mm-hmm. And boy, does Brown have strong Northeast ties. And he said, I'm going to hammer that down. And I think this is not just perfect for a vision that Wildhack has, but perfect also just for the university as well, for that vision as well of what the university wants to bring in to Syracuse. I think Syracuse is, I would at least hope that Syracuse is tired of getting stepped on by Boston College and Pitt in terms of getting outbid, quote unquote, for these Northeast recruits. And you could say Penn State as well, but at least in the ACC, like, if the Boston College and Pitt still have been, grabbing most of these Northeast recruits, and as if you can start in Jersey, and this could easily branch out into something more, because this will be the snowball that catches on fire.
Too soon.
Yeah, I think I'm taking a look right now at the Syracuse 24/7, the hard commits that they have. So right now, Jamie Tremble, Georgia, biggest one. We obviously want to keep him, but just looking at the list, like, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the 16 signed recruits are from the DMV area. So basically the DMV area north through eastern Pennsylvania into New Jersey, or from New York State. And then the other 6 are from Georgia and or western Pennsylvania, with 1 Texas recruit thrown and a Wisconsin recruit thrown in there. So even the kids that are already here that were being targeted by some of Dino's staff, obviously some of that is now Fran as well, was already kind of looking in this area, and the offers that have been put out are just so much of this like recruiting hotbed area where if Syracuse can be like the way that Steve said it, if Syracuse can own New Jersey and be the gatekeeper of New Jersey, where look, if Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, Washington, like one of these schools comes in and really forms a connection with the kid, and that kid wants to go play in the Big Ten or the SEC or something, like it's going to be hard to fight them off, like just very honestly. But they'll have to flip the kid from Syracuse first. And same thing for like these smaller schools where it's a situation where, oh, you're a 3-star from New Jersey. Okay, well, we can get you if Syracuse runs out of room in their class. Like, that is the dream scenario here. I'm not saying Syracuse is going to be that at any point in time, nor should they expect to be that. But if that's the goal that Fran and his recruiting staff are consistently working towards and are able to achieve at some level, that's going to be something that we literally have not seen since the 90s.
And I think this is something that goes to show that at least Syracuse is being realistic with the times, because the hire goes to show like, okay, what's going to get Syracuse to bring in recruits? Yes, we've got a big facility project that's coming in right now. But if we're going to be realistic with ourselves, so I mean, the fans can see it, and I'm pretty sure the administrators can see it, it's still not nearly to the level as the other ACC schools that are currently in the conference right now, and probably even less so with Cal, Stanford, and SMU coming in. So what are you going to do to attract recruits coming into Syracuse? And just in the general day and age of not just athletics, but in life in general, I mean, one-on-one relationships and just decent, honest relationships with people are so valued because it's a value that doesn't seem to be around as often anymore. I hate to call this out, but like look at the Leon Lowry situation. Like it seems like that was a relationship that was rocky and nearly upended a transfer destination.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, Wisconsin has definitely better facilities than Syracuse. But what you can say right now is that kids right now are going to, and just people in general right now, some people, and probably a large majority of them, are going to value those interpersonal relationships, and it seems like this staff is so heavily keen on building, more so than the facilities that they're going to. Because it's one thing to go to a place because the amenities are nice. It's another thing to enjoy going to said place. And because the recruiting is so strong, because the personalities are so strong right now, as Andy Lass says, another name is being added to the spreadsheet that's in the in the 90s grade. It is really, really important that these relationships are being built and that that these kids are being recruited based on, hey, I'm your guy, and we're gonna build and grow together. And that's how Syracuse is going to get the big recruits in this day and age to Central New York.
So I don't know if you guys saw this. Steve Wolfong from 24/7 on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It's still Twitter.
Yes. Continue.
His quote from the aforementioned KJ Bolden. Did either of you see this?
I did not.
I scanned that article, but I need to.
And I quote from the number one safety in the recruiting class nationwide. Syracuse has something special in the making, and Coach Fran is the one that will have Syracuse in playoff talks in years to come. End quote. Yeah. This is the number one safety in the country saying this, and it's Steve Wiltfong that's quoting it, so it's not like it's just an arbitrary attribute. It's a legit legit quote.
Q, are you not entertained meme?
Yeah. Jalen Hornsby, the commit, and I quote, "I know if I choose to come to Cuse, I'll leave a better football player and a better man. The coaching staff is top of the line also."
And that's the most important part.
Yeah.
The last point.
Yep.
Dino said that a lot, that they want Syracuse to become better. Like, you come to Syracuse and they leave better people, not just better football players. And it seems like Brown and his staff and the staff he's building, at the very least, are building towards that point first.
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm reading the Rivals article about the Jalen Hornsby flip. Do you have Yasin Willis on that list up there? Yeah, he gets called out by Jalen specifically in the article saying, "Hey, I hope he comes here." So
yeah, are they both Philly guys or Pittsburgh PA guys, or are they Jersey?
They're Jersey. They are Jersey guys.
Hornsby's Jersey. He's from Camden.
Yeah, Willis is a Pitt commit. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, exactly. I think that one of the obvious things that's happening right now, and it's really funny to hear this. One of my friends put it this way in the group chat. It's really funny that Fran Brown is going to potentially revive Syracuse with the simple philosophy of shoot your shot. And and it's funny, but Christian, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, Dino talked about a lot of these things, but Dino and a lot of what we saw over the last 7 years or so was a lot of talking about things and then not a whole lot of follow through on a lot of things. And this was a situation where we saw in the recruiting, they were just not going after a lot of these people. And then you'd hear the recruiting scuttlebutt articles that would come out and essentially say that, yeah, Syracuse's staff, it was just weirdly not present and not really engaged. And you start to get the idea that Dino kind of had his guys and he went after his guys and that was it. And to an extent, Fran might be doing the same thing. Again, this has just been 1 week. We see him going after a lot of names, but it does seem kind of crazy to me that Fran seems to be under the impression of like, look, I'm going to come and meet you. You're going to come and meet me. We're going to see if we connect, if we vibe. If we do, we're going to continue this thing going and we're going to continue to recruit you. And I think his ability to build relationships, both with the players and with everybody else around the program, is going to be the biggest strength that he has, because I think what's not been said a whole lot this week is anything about NIL. Obviously, there's a lot happening at the college level. For those that don't know, NCAA president is attempting to change the way that NIL can get distributed. Like, it's obviously not worth talking about speculation right now, but it does seem as if Fran is operating and these kids are operating as if what Syracuse has to offer is good enough. And if Fran can be the one to figure out how to make what Syracuse has worked for these high, like, quality football players, like, man, I 100% understand why we hired him, because that is a recipe that no one has really figured out since Pasqualoni. Marone was always a coach him up, and Dino was coach him up sometimes and then transfer.
What?
Hey, you know
the Ferrari was not the NIL package?
Just get to hang out with the Ferrari. You don't own the Ferrari.
You know who did do that a little when they were on the Hill? As a recruiting coordinator and player development guy? Khalil Ahmad, who's coming back.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who Penn State, I can't remember what podcast it was, but there's a clip of one of the Penn State podcasts saying basically that him returning to Syracuse with the Fran Brown staff has them worried, and that Syracuse is immediately relevant again.
Run on to me, what is a hide?
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Khalil Ahmad, basically recruiting and player development guru at his various stops through the course.
And also, not just recruiting guru, but specifically in New Jersey.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
that goes without saying at this point in the podcast.
specifically, just went to Montclair High School, and started his career as the offensive coordinator and recruiting coordinator at Passaic High School. Which, if you're not from Jersey, just know that is like in the smack dab heart of the area that Fran is going after all of these kids.
Montclair, only a couple of towns away from me. Yep.
Patterson East Side. Yep.
He is. I think this is going to be a really interesting experiment. The Split Zone Duo podcast talked about the Fran Brown hire at length most recently, because there were two things that they were surprised by. One, Richard Johnson called Syracuse the potential to be the HBCU in the North, which I thought was very funny, and it's also kind of maybe happening based off of Fran Brown's staff.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Just something to keep monitoring. And two, one of the things Stephen Godfrey, who's a little bit older, I don't have the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of like, look, if Syracuse can actually consistently recruit the Northeast in this way, and if Fran Brown is able to prove out that like being this good of a recruiter isn't really about facilities and NIL, it's really about like
being a decent human being.
Well, no, it's always going to be about those two things, but it's about being strategic with that plus your relationship building. And like, you don't like, basically, can Syracuse be the anti-Texas A&M? Texas A&M had all the money in the world, got a lot of talent, didn't do anything with it on the field, besides 8 wins. If Syracuse gets all the talent in the world and gets 8 wins every year, we are going to be ecstatic. And it's just a really interesting juxtaposition, because at the end of the day, those are two very different amounts being asked by alumni to be spent on the football program with the same results. And what does that mean for someone like Fran Brown, not necessarily him specifically, but the next recruiting guru that comes up and is looking for a head coaching job? Because it's not like, this is this type of hire hasn't happened in a while, because we've all been looking at, offensive play callers, defensive play callers, and Fran was neither one of those.
No, he wasn't. Also, you mentioned Godfrey being old. I hate you. And also, I did not realize that the aforementioned Home Field Apparel has a Stephen Godfrey Hates My Team t-shirt. So, yeah.
Bingo.
A lot of gold here.
There's a lot of overlap in the college football Twitter podcasting world.
There are dozens of us. It's fine.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh, God. Here we go. Yeah. So we've done a lot of recruiting stuff, and I never thought that it would be December 10th, and this is what we were talking about on the pod.
When's early signing day?
The 20th. 20th is officially early signing day. So,
God, that's going to be a wild 48 hours.
It's going to be a long 10 days, boys.
It's going to be a long 10 days. And then we get to that 48-hour stretch of early signing day on the 20th, and then the dang bowl game on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that this is going to be, like, let's end it on this idea. Like, what if, and Steve, this is the last time I'm going to ask you, but you scroll up to the top of this list. Like, what if on the 20th, Walter Nolan, he's a transfer, so it's not the same thing, but like, what if he, by the 20th, decides to come to Syracuse? What if KJ Bolden flips to Syracuse on the 20th? What if
Yassine Willis just committed to Syracuse?
What?
What if Yassine Willis just committed to Syracuse?
Oh, really?
Wait, are you saying that he did that?
Yeah, look in our Slack.
Oh my gosh, he literally just flipped.
Wow.
Breaking from Mike McAllister, 4-star Montvale, New Jersey running back Yassine Willis, who we just talked about, has flipped from Pitt and committed to Syracuse.
I can officially update the chart.
This is so funny.
Cue the shitty DJ Khaled, another one.
Yeah. So this is my point. On the 20th, these guys are going to like put pen to paper, sign for Syracuse.
I can remove this record.
Yeah, you can. Like me, he has learned that just because you say you're going to Pitt doesn't mean you actually have to go to Pitt. It's way better at Syracuse. But this is going to be the conversation during the bowl game. Like, this is going to be the opposite of the Virginia Tech game, where Syracuse was a national joke for 3.5 hours on ESPN. This is going to be a thing where the bowl game broadcast is going to be talking about how Syracuse did relative to the ACC in recruiting and how it got all of these names and all of these late flips. It is going to be wild, and it's going to be a 3-hour advertisement for Syracuse and Fran Brown. And I kind of love it.
Yeah. It's going to be, I don't even know what to expect. It's going to be great. I don't care what happens on the field. Like, they're just going to be literally talking about this whole situation for the entirety. Like, the number 2 and 3 recruits in our class just committed today. What? None of it makes sense. As a Syracuse fan, this is hope, and I don't know what hope is.
Well, it's the hope that kills you, Steve.
100%.
So the last time Syracuse
fan, remember.
The last time Syracuse fans felt any resemblance of hope was the 2013 lacrosse championships.
Yeah. No, last year.
Yeah, but that's our subsection of Syracuse fandom.
It matters.
It does matter. I cannot believe that we're going to end the podcast with Syracuse getting its second highest recruit.
Of the day.
Wait, that's second highest recruit of the day, third highest of the class. Because Jamie Tremble is also orange.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. My God. Fran, what are you doing? Yeah, this was a fun show, guys. The crazy part is that next week I cannot wait to see what the spreadsheet looks like.
I feel like Steve's going to be highlighting a lot more orange rows in the next week.
Probably.
Man, this is kind of wild to me that, again, we just got our 2 highest the same day. Also, from New Jersey, Bergen Record high school reporter Sean Farrell wanted to remind me, Yassine, we can end the show on this. Yassine Willis, same high school as Matt Turner.
There we go. That's
so there we go. We are officially a football school. That is we're just recruiting all of your New Jersey belongs to us. We will find a way to get Matt Turner in orange.
Officially again.
Can we put Matt Turner on Manchester United, please? I think that would help a lot.
He just got his spot back as the Forest starting keeper, so.
Yeah, but former Manchester United keepers have gone to Forest and done well, so
So, randomly, Turner plays his entire collegiate career, played college soccer at Fairfield.
Yes.
In the MAC.
Mm-hmm.
The Metro Atlantic.
Yes.
Not the other MAC.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up going from there to the Richmond Kickers and then to the national team. Okay, sure. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Still have always just loved that route.
And then remember
Jersey Express, just for your justification there, Christian.
Oh, yes.
And then just casually got an Arsenal gig where he never really played and parlayed that into an EPL starting keeper gig.
Yeah, as one does.
as one does.
That's one does.
All right. This is where we're going to end the show before another Syracuse recruit commits and we have to talk about him. Save that for next week's show. Thank you to everybody who listened to...
I'm frantically pulling up Twitter to make sure that nothing new has happened.
Thank you for listening.
Remember those days when we were just refreshing Bailey's Twitter over and over again?
Fans First Sports Network show. We really appreciate the support. Make sure that you like and subscribe on the podcast platform of choice. It helps us trick the AI into expanding the Ottoman Empire. Thank you if you're watching us live on Twitch as you watch me choke on my own water and watch our facial reactions, watch my brain break, watch Steve drink his happy beer as we all have hope now. You should join us every Sunday night at 8 p.m. over there. We'll be there next Sunday for yet another great show. Thank you to those who are watching on newsmagician.com. We do appreciate your support over there. Again, keep an eye out for Christian and Steve's great work over there on the site as well. And finally, thank you again to everybody who stuck with us this football season. We are coming to the home stretch. It has been a roller coaster. And now we're on the part where we're going down the really big, steep cliff. And there's been a few surprise turns, but we seem to be enjoying the ride. And we look forward to hanging out with you through the end of this crazy, crazy ride. I can say this for the first time in a while with really enthusiastically. Go Orange.
Go Orange.
Go Orange.